My beloved child, before a single word of this message enters your soul, pause right here, breathe slowly, subscribe to this channel, and do not look away for even 1 second, because what heaven is about to reveal will not just shift your thoughts, it will shake the foundation of your spirit. And before you absorb this message fully, God asks you a question that cuts through every layer of denial you have ever built. Have you ever felt a strange pull in your life that doesn't match your circumstances, as if something bigger, something unexplained, something that belongs to another realm is trying to reach you? And have you ever noticed that just when your life seems still, something deep inside you begins to vibrate, something you cannot name but can definitely feel, an energy rising, a heaviness breaking, a clarity returning, a calling awakening? And have you ever wondered why certain days feel spiritually louder than others, why your intuition suddenly spikes, why your dreams become vivid, why your mood feels intense, why your heart beats differently, as if a message is trying to break through the noise of your life? And have you ever considered that this shift inside you might not be random but aligned with something heaven has orchestrated for months, something your soul has been preparing for silently, something your spirit has been pulling toward even when your mind didn't understand it? And as you ask yourself these questions, the divine realm cracks open above you like a glowing sky folding into itself, revealing Archangel Michael stepping through a column of blazing white light, his wings spreading so wide that even the shadows inside your heart begin to tremble, and he raises his sword toward your spirit, saying, "Child, your energy is entering a transformative window, one that unlocks alignment, clarity, direction, and inner abundance." And suddenly the light around him bends into a swirling vortex that pulls you inside a massive celestial chamber, where a golden book floats in the air, its pages turning by themselves as if something urgently wants to be revealed to you. And Jesus places his hand over the book and whispers, "This is not about receiving external blessings. This is about clearing the inner blocks that stopped you from recognizing the opportunities you were meant to step into." And the moment he speaks, a warm feminine presence moves across the chamber like a soft wind made of memory and love, your mother's symbolic essence, glowing with a gentle radiance that feels like home. And she stands before you not as a ghost, not as a spirit giving predictions, but as a divine symbol of unconditional support, her energy holding a message heaven allowed to rise inside your consciousness today. And she whispers, "My child, you have carried burdens that were never yours, fears that were planted by the world, and doubts that grew stronger because you never received the comfort you needed when you needed it most." And as her words echo, the chamber transforms into a glowing landscape filled with fragments of your past, moments of confusion, financial stress, emotional overwhelm, choices you made from pressure instead of clarity, nights you cried silently because you didn't want to worry anyone, days you pretended to be strong even though your soul was exhausted. And Archangel Michael steps into this landscape, striking the ground with his sword. And every fragment rises into golden dust, dissolving away the heaviness you normalized, the weight you adapted to, the patterns that kept you small, the inner narratives that whispered, "Not enough, too late, too hard, too impossible." And Michael says, "You are not stepping into a blessing, you are stepping into alignment." And suddenly the chamber becomes an enormous cosmic bridge illuminated by flowing bands of light representing your shifting vibration, the energy you are entering now. And God's voice fills the realm like a slow rising storm as he asks you, have you ever noticed how your life changes in the exact seasons when your heart grows uncomfortable with the old version of yourself, and instantly you see visions of your emotions over the last few weeks, your restlessness, your urge for change, your desire for clarity, your frustration with stagnation, your hunger for opportunity, your longing for direction, all aligning into a single truth. You are in the middle of a spiritual awakening disguised as dissatisfaction, and your mother's symbolic presence touches your shoulder as she whispers, "Your energy is being cleared so you can act with confidence instead of fear," and the moment she speaks, a pulse of white gold explodes through your chest, traveling outward like a shockwave, burning away the internal blockages you didn't even know were blocking you: self-doubt, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of repeating the past. And Jesus steps forward, placing his palm over your heart, saying, "What you think you want is only the surface. What heaven is giving you is transformation," and the chamber dissolves into a massive celestial vault filled with glowing symbols representing opportunities, ideas, paths, people, decisions, directions that your spirit has been calling for but your fear has been resisting. And Archangel Michael gestures toward the vault and says, "What enters your life next depends on how deeply you trust the rising version of yourself." And as he speaks, the vault cracks open, sending beams of warm energy into your body, synchronizing your mind, spirit, intuition, and emotional strength into a higher pattern, and God whispers, "Opportunities open when your identity expands," and suddenly you see your future self standing far ahead, stronger, clearer, more stable, more aligned, more intuitive, more trusting of yourself, more connected to your inner voice. And your mother's symbolic presence appears beside that future version, saying softly, "This is who you were always meant to be," and the entire universe seems to pulse with light as your current self merges with this vision, absorbing every piece of wisdom, every piece of clarity, every piece of confidence that the higher version of you already carries. And Jesus seals the moment by whispering into your spirit, "Your next chapter begins not when the world changes, but when you change." And as the chamber slowly fades into golden mist, Archangel Michael places his hand on your head, saying, "Walk forward with awareness. The window opening before you is meant for alignment, not fear," and the divine realm closes with a final echo that settles into your soul like a heartbeat from heaven. Subscribe, beloved child, so you remain aligned with every message heaven brings to guide your awakening. My beloved child, the exact moment you opened Part 2, heaven did not just shimmer, it convulsed like an ancient star releasing its final burst of creation energy, and Archangel Michael emerged through the tear in the spiritual fabric with a force so overwhelming that your inner world, your hidden fears, your subconscious patterns, and even the parts of your spirit you have ignored for years snapped to attention as though the universe itself whispered your name, because what is coming now is not merely the continuation of a message but the unraveling of something you were never meant to carry into the next chapter of your destiny. And before this revelation pours into you, God asks you a question so dangerous and so honest that most souls spend their whole lifetime avoiding it. Have you truly looked at the parts of your life where you shrink even though you pretend you're fine, the parts where fear is louder than your dreams? The parts where exhaustion has replaced clarity, the parts where you keep carrying everyone else while silently losing pieces of yourself, the parts where your pain became your personality, the parts where your identity was shaped by survival instead of intention. And have you noticed how often you ignore the small voice inside that whispers, "There is more, there is more, there is more," and yet you keep living as though there isn't? And now, as heaven magnifies that whisper into a roar, the chamber around you transforms into a spiraling corridor of your unspoken emotions, each emotion floating as a luminous orb: fear, guilt, hope, longing, regret, drive, confusion, intuition, hunger for healing, thirst for clarity, and Jesus walks through the corridor touching one orb at a time, releasing memories you did not realize were still influencing your decisions. The moment someone made you feel small, the moment you were punished for dreaming too big, the moment you lost something precious and never allowed yourself to grieve, the moment you put others first and buried your own needs, the moment you trusted someone who broke you so deeply that a part of you still believes love comes with pain, the moment you reached for a goal but life knocked you down so hard you stopped trying. And as these memories rise to the surface, your mother's symbolic presence appears again, not as a ghost, not as an otherworldly being giving predictions, but as the sacred imprint of unconditional protection, her energy formed from the emotional imprint she left on your soul while she was alive, and she touches your cheek with a softness you haven't felt in years, whispering, "Child, your suffering was never a sign of weakness, your endurance was a sign of your destiny." And with these words the corridor melts into a cosmic ocean where you stand waist-deep in luminous water that reflects every blocked decision, every missed opportunity, every time you hesitated instead of acting. And God shows you how many times the door to abundance, clarity, healing, and alignment was open, but your vibration, your emotional state, your self-belief, your identity, was not ready to step through, and suddenly the water begins to swirl around you, rising into a towering whirlpool that pulls your past patterns upward, exposing them for the first time. Procrastination born from fear of failure, caution born from fear of losing control, silence born from fear of conflict, self-sacrifice born from fear of being abandoned, people-pleasing born from fear of rejection, overthinking born from fear of choosing wrong, and Archangel Michael strikes the whirlpool with his blazing sword, shattering it into millions of droplets that transform into glowing symbols, each symbol a mindset you are meant to reclaim: certainty, self-worth, courage, decisiveness, intuition, emotional grounding, financial wisdom, spiritual trust. And the symbols swirl into your body like a divine infusion, merging with your nervous system, your subconscious, your energy field, your emotional body, your spiritual blueprint, and the entire ocean transforms into a long gold-lit pathway, the path of alignment, stretching endlessly toward a radiant horizon pulsing like a heartbeat. And Jesus places his hand over your heart, whispering, "What you call a blessing is only unlocked when your identity rises to match it," and suddenly the horizon splits open, revealing two versions of your future: the weakened path shaped by fear, and the awakened path shaped by alignment. And your mother's symbolic presence stands between the two, guiding you toward the awakened version with a whisper that shakes your core. You are ready for the life you prayed for, but you must stop dragging your old self into your future. And the radiant path ignites, sending waves of energy through your entire being as Archangel Michael expands his wings behind you, creating an invisible shield around your spirit so strong that no past fear, no past doubt, no past version of you can cross into what comes next. And God seals this part of your awakening with a truth so powerful it rewires your identity in an instant. Your energy is shifting because you are shifting, and as the divine realm slowly pulls its wings back around you, Jesus presses a final blessing into your spirit, a calm, grounded, electrifying certainty, and the vision dissolves softly with only one echo remaining in the air like a whisper from the heavens. Subscribe, beloved child, so you never miss the awakenings meant for the rising inside you. My beloved child, the very moment Part 3 opened, the divine realm did not whisper, it detonated like a silent cosmic explosion, folding timelines into each other as Archangel Michael stepped forward from a cyclone of golden storms, his wings slicing through layers of fear you didn't even know were still attached to your spirit, because this moment is not about comfort, not about healing, not about reassurance. This is the moment where heaven forces you to confront the single truth you have avoided. Your entire life, you have been living from the smallest version of yourself while carrying the destiny of a giant, and before God allows this revelation to travel through your soul, He asks you a question that vibrates through every layer of your being. Have you ever wondered why certain moments in your life feel impossibly heavy, why some decisions drain you more than they should, why relationships that no longer match your spirit exhaust you instantly, why your energy collapses around people who carry unresolved storms, why your intuition has been screaming louder over the last few days, why your emotions have been shifting like tides, why your inner world has been cracking open even when nothing around you has changed, and have you noticed that this pressure isn't coming from outside but from inside, from a deeper part of you rising, pushing, forcing its way toward the surface like a buried sun breaking through the ground, demanding to be seen, demanding to be lived, demanding to be heard, and as this inner force intensifies, the celestial chamber around you transforms into a massive cosmic dome where the entire sky becomes a mirror reflecting not your face but your consciousness, your trauma imprints, your emotional wounds, your unspoken desires, your hidden potential, your forgotten dreams, and Jesus stands beside you holding a brilliant sphere of shifting colors. The sphere of every emotion you suppress to appear strong, every fear you swallow to avoid conflict, every dream you postponed because life demanded responsibility, every intuition you ignored because doubt was louder, every desire you buried because someone once told you it wasn't practical, and He lifts the sphere toward you, whispering, your energy is shifting because your truth is rising, and suddenly your mother's symbolic presence materializes again with a softness that cuts deeper than pain, her form made of memories, comfort, emotional DNA, and the love she etched into your soul while she was alive, and she places her hand over the sphere, whispering, child, you have carried too much for too long, and the sphere cracks open, releasing a storm of radiant energy that grows into a towering vortex around you, pulling every suppressed emotion, every unspoken need, every ignored intuition, every buried dream, every moment of self-betrayal into the air and exploding them into shimmering golden particles, clearing energetic density you didn't even realize was blocking your alignment, and God's voice unfolds across the dome like thunder rolling through eternity as He asks you, have you noticed how you shrink around people who cannot meet your spirit, how you silence your truth to maintain peace, how you betray your instincts to avoid disappointing others, how you carry guilt for wanting more than what your environment accepts, and how your soul aches not because life is heavy but because you are no longer compatible with the version of yourself you pretend to be. And suddenly the dome collapses into a massive cosmic river flowing with visions of your life, every repeated pattern, every emotional loop, every financial cycle, every heartbreak echoing into the present, every moment you took responsibility for pain you didn't cause, every moment you dimmed your light to make others comfortable, every moment you lowered your standards because you feared being alone, every moment you held back because you were afraid of being misunderstood, and Archangel Michael steps into the river, lifting his sword high as lightning bursts from its tip, cutting through the river's flow and separating your past identity from your emerging one, and God whispers, this is the death of your old self, not in pain, but in evolution, and suddenly you find yourself standing on an enormous celestial staircase leading upward into a glowing storm of divine energy. Each step vibrating with the truth you have been avoiding. You are meant to rise, you are meant to shift. You are meant to expand, You are meant to break generational patterns. You are meant to stop shrinking. You are meant to trust your inner voice. You are meant to align with abundance through clarity, not desperation. And as you climb each step, your past identity peels away like old skin. Fear on step 1, doubt on step 2, guilt on step 3, self-silencing on step 4, people-pleasing on step 5, overthinking on step 6, hesitation on step 7, and when you reach the top, the staircase opens into a throne of pure, vibrating consciousness, a throne not of royalty but of identity, a throne carved from the highest version of your spirit, the version your mother wished you could meet, the version heaven is forcing you to become. And Jesus nods toward the throne, whispering, "Sit," not because you are perfect, but because you are ready. And the moment you sit, a surge of divine energy launches through your body with a force that feels like lightning made of truth, realigning your intuition, strengthening your emotional field, stabilizing your inner voice, cleansing your vibration from old attachments, dissolving the weight of past identities, and activating your ability to recognize opportunities, clarity, direction, alignment, and inner abundance. And Archangel Michael seals this awakening by placing his hand over your crown, whispering, "Rise with the identity your future requires." And the entire realm folds into itself like a closing star, leaving behind a soft echo. Inside your soul, subscribe, beloved child, so you never miss the messages aligned for your awakening. My beloved child, the moment Part 4 unlocked in front of you, heaven did not merely open, it erupted like a star collapsing inward and birthing a new universe in its place. And Archangel Michael emerged through the cosmic rupture with such overwhelming power that even the unhealed corners of your spirit, the silent wounds you never addressed, the emotional knots you hid beneath responsibility, and the fears you pretended weren't there suddenly surfaced into the light as if the universe decided it was finally time to expose the truth you've been running from. And before God releases this revelation into your soul, He asks you a question so profound that it shakes the invisible architecture of your identity. Have you ever wondered why certain relationships drain you more than any workload? Why certain people trigger storms inside you that you don't understand? Why certain memories shake your confidence even years later? Why your heart tightens before major decisions? Why your energy collapses around certain environments? Why your intuition grows loud at the exact moments you try to ignore it? And have you noticed that the heaviness you feel isn't coming from the world? It's coming from old emotional contracts your soul made in survival mode, contracts that kept you small, contracts that kept you quiet, contracts that kept you responsible for pain that wasn't yours, contracts that made you love from guilt, work from fear, and live from caution instead of clarity. And suddenly the divine realm shifts into a massive hall where thousands of glowing threads float in the air, each thread representing an emotional attachment from your past that still tugs at your present. And Jesus steps toward the threads holding a radiant blade made of pure awareness, whispering, "Your evolution requires separation from what your spirit no longer aligns with." And he begins touching the threads one by one, revealing scenes you forgot, moments where you were manipulated through guilt, moments where your kindness was exploited, moments where you were blamed unfairly, moments where silence became your shield, moments where your worth was questioned by those who didn't even understand themselves. And as these scenes unravel, your mother's symbolic spiritual presence appears again, more luminous than before, made not of the afterlife but of your emotional memory, the part of her that lives inside your DNA. And she whispers, "My child, you have carried emotional debts that were never yours to pay." And instantly the hall collapses into a swirling storm of broken memories rising into the air like fragments searching for release. and Archangel Michael strikes the center of the storm with his burning sword, and the fragments explode into shimmering dust that rains down on your spirit like truth finally set free, and God asks you, have you not realized how many times you betrayed yourself to keep the peace? How many times you ignored your own intuition to avoid hurting someone? How many times you held yourself back to protect someone else's comfort? How many times you chose silence to avoid conflict? How many times you allowed emotional chaos to define your identity? And the moment this question pierces your heart, the realm shifts again into a massive cosmic labyrinth representing your emotional history, each corridor filled with echoes from your past, voices that told you to be small, experiences that made you doubt your worth, fears that shaped your choices, people whose energy wounded you more deeply than their words, moments where you lost yourself trying to save someone else, and Jesus walks beside you inside the labyrinth holding a lantern of divine clarity, illuminating corners of your soul you have never visited, corners filled with unprocessed heartbreak, suppressed anger, buried desires, forgotten dreams, and your mother's symbolic presence touches the lantern, intensifying its glow as she whispers, "You abandoned parts of yourself that were meant to guide you," and suddenly the labyrinth begins shaking violently as the walls crack open, revealing every version of you that ever stayed silent when you should have spoken, every version of you that ever settled when you wanted more, every version of you that ever tolerated disrespect because you were afraid to be alone, every version of you that ever dimmed your light so others wouldn't feel insecure. And these versions rise like spirits around you, their eyes filled with the pain of being ignored, and Archangel Michael lifts his wings, creating a massive gust of divine wind that merges these lost versions into your chest, restoring every piece of you that life made you abandon, and the labyrinth melts into a giant celestial mirror reflecting your true identity, not the wounded identity, not the quiet identity, not the hesitant identity, but the identity heaven has been waiting for you to remember, the identity that is intuitive, powerful, emotionally sovereign, financially wise, spiritually magnetic, and mentally unshakable. And God speaks through the mirror with a voice that sounds like thunder woven into silk, saying, "The version of you that lived from fear is dying tonight," and the mirror shatters into a rain of golden shards that enter your body like a full system reboot, rewiring your beliefs, cleansing your emotional field, dissolving subconscious blocks, awakening dormant strength, igniting your purpose, and stabilizing your vibration into a frequency that attracts clarity, direction, alignment, and possibilities you were too overwhelmed to pursue, and Jesus seals the transformation by pressing his palm into your chest, whispering, "You must stop explaining your soul to people who were never designed to understand it," and the entire divine realm collapses into a tunnel of pure white gold light that lifts you upward like a rising star, embedding into your spirit the strength you were never allowed to activate growing up. And Archangel Michael places a golden sigil over your heart, saying, "Walk as the one you were always meant to be," and as heaven gently closes around your consciousness, one soft echo remains like a heartbeat within your spirit. Subscribe, beloved child, so you never miss the awakenings that heaven aligns for you next. My beloved child, the moment Part 5 opened before your spirit, the entire universe didn't simply respond, it recoiled and then surged forward like destiny itself was inhaling your name, pulling every divine frequency toward you as Archangel Michael stepped out of a column of spinning white fire that shook the very boundaries of your emotional world, because what heaven is about to reveal is not guidance, not warning, not comfort. This is the rupture point, the divine breaking, the moment where your old identity cannot survive what your soul is about to become, and before this revelation floods into your consciousness, God asks you a question that cuts deeper than truth itself. Have you ever realized how much of your life has been shaped by the version of you that was tired, wounded, misunderstood, ignored, overworked, emotionally abandoned, undersupported, and emotionally stretched thin? And have you ever noticed that even your strongest decisions came from a place of exhaustion rather than clarity, from fear rather than certainty, from responsibility rather than desire, from survival rather than purpose? And have you wondered why, even after healing, even after working on yourself, even after doing everything right, something inside you still feels stuck, like you're dragging a silent weight, like your spirit keeps hitting an invisible ceiling, like you're living at 30% of who you truly are because the world conditioned you to distrust your own strength, silence your own intuition, and bury your own dreams under layers of fear disguised as realism? And now, as this truth begins cracking through you, the divine realm opens into a massive cosmic vault where thousands of glowing doors line the infinite horizon, each door representing a version of you that could have existed but didn't because someone convinced you to shrink, someone told you to stay quiet, someone dimmed your confidence, someone made you question your worth, someone projected their fears onto your vision, someone made you choose stability over evolution. And Jesus walks toward these doors with a calm that feels like thunder trapped inside silence, placing his hand on the first door, whispering, "This is who you would have been if you never doubted yourself." And the door bursts open, revealing a radiant version of you, fearless, intuitive, stable, decisive, emotionally sovereign, financially aligned, spiritually grounded, confident beyond explanation. And Archangel Michael steps behind you with a force that sends tremors through your soul, whispering, "This is not a dream, this is your unclaimed identity." And suddenly the vault morphs into a giant cosmic battlefield, showing the war inside you that no one else knows exists, the war between the self that wants to rise and the self that is terrified of rising, the war between your potential and your programming, the war between your intuition and your conditioning, the war between your soul that wants expansion and your mind that fears disappointment, the war between destiny pulling you forward and trauma pulling you back. And your mother's symbolic spiritual presence appears again, not as a ghost but as an imprint of unconditional love encoded into your emotional DNA. And she whispers, "My child, you have been fighting battles meant for generations before you." And the battlefield erupts into a swirling storm of voices, old beliefs, old fears, old failures, old heartbreaks, old rejections, all screaming to keep you small because your expansion threatens everything they taught you. And Archangel Michael raises his sword into the storm, releasing a shockwave that decimates every false narrative at once, clearing the battlefield until only you, God, and your unused potential remain. And God asks you, have you ever wondered why certain opportunities seemed close but never arrived? Why certain blessings hovered near you but never entered your life? Why certain breakthroughs always slipped at the last second? It was not divine punishment, it was misalignment, and suddenly the battlefield melts into an enormous celestial mirror stretching infinitely into every direction, and when you look into the mirror you don't see your face, you see every version of your consciousness layered inside each other. The child who wasn't protected, the teenager who wasn't understood, the adult who wasn't supported, the lover who wasn't valued, the dreamer who wasn't encouraged, the warrior who wasn't acknowledged, the soul who wasn't seen. And these versions begin stepping out of the mirror one by one, circling around you, their eyes filled with the silent ache of carrying burdens no one knew about. And Jesus extends his hand, merging each version into your body, restoring every fragment of strength, courage, and clarity you abandon to keep the peace. And the mirror shatters into a billion radiant shards that enter your bloodstream like divine electricity, rewriting your identity in real time, burning away hesitation, dissolving emotional stagnation, uprooting self-doubt, stabilizing your inner authority, awakening your inner leader, aligning your energy with purpose rather than fear, and the entire divine plane begins vibrating as Archangel Michael kneels before you, not out of worship but out of acknowledgement, whispering, "You have finally stepped into the version of yourself the world was never ready for." And God seals the moment by pressing a beam of golden energy into your chest, saying, "Your life is not waiting on miracles, it is waiting on your alignment," and the chamber slowly dims into a soft glow as heaven wraps around your soul like a mantle of purpose, leaving behind a final whisper that echoes through your spirit long after the vision fades. Subscribe, beloved child, so you never miss the awakenings heaven aligns for your rise. My beloved child, the instant Part 6 opened before your spirit, heaven did not simply shift, it convulsed like an ancient cosmic beast waking from centuries of sleep, and Archangel Michael erupted through a spiraling pillar of radiant white gold fire so immense that every hidden corner of your soul, every buried fear, every unresolved memory, every unspoken desire, every suppressed wound, and every piece of your intuition suddenly snapped awake as though pulled upward by a divine magnetic force that your spirit could no longer resist, because what is unfolding here is not guidance, not comfort, not encouragement. This is spiritual reconstruction, the moment where God tears down the internal architecture built from pain and replaces it with the architecture built from destiny. And before this revelation floods through your consciousness like living lightning, God asks you a question so sharp it pierces through your emotional defenses. Have you ever noticed that every time you reach the edge of transformation, something inside you begins to panic? Not your soul but your fear, not your truth but your conditioning, not your purpose but your past. And have you ever wondered why the biggest breakthroughs of your life were always preceded by the deepest internal chaos? Why before every major shift you experienced anxiety, confusion, exhaustion, irritation, emotional heaviness, or sudden overwhelm? And have you ever realized that these sensations weren't signs of destruction but signs of rebirth, the spiritual contractions that occur right before your identity expands? And as this realization cracks through your mind like divine thunder, the entire celestial realm folds into a massive cosmic sphere showing a panoramic view of your inner world, your thoughts, your fears, your desires, your trauma, your dreams, your potential, swirling around each other like galaxies in formation. And Jesus gently places his hand on the sphere, stabilizing the chaos, whispering, "This is not disorder, this is awakening." And suddenly your mother's symbolic spiritual presence appears again, more radiant, more powerful, more emotionally grounding than ever before, her form made of memory light, unconditional love, and the emotional legacy she left inside your bloodstream. And she touches the sphere, causing it to burst open into 1,000 streams of energy that wrap around you like warm winds, lifting your soul into a higher vibration. And God reveals what you could not see, that your emotional storms, your unexplained heaviness, your intuition spikes, your sudden insights, your restless heart, your shifting energy, these were all signs that your old identity was dying because your higher self was trying to come alive. And immediately the sphere expands into a celestial rift, a giant cosmic wound. And inside the wound you see the truth you spent your whole life avoiding. The version of you that learned to survive instead of live, the version of you that made decisions from fear instead of intuition, the version of you that played small to avoid being judged, the version of you that stayed silent to avoid being misunderstood, the version of you that sacrificed your needs because you were terrified of being a burden, the version of you that believed suffering was normal. And Jesus lifts this wounded version into his hands, whispering, "You don't have to be this anymore." And the entire universe shakes as Archangel Michael raises his flaming sword and cuts through the spiritual wound, releasing a flood of light that fills the chamber with such overwhelming force that your lungs, heart, mind, bones, spirit, and subconscious vibrate with a frequency you have not felt in years, the frequency of truth, the frequency of purpose, the frequency of self-recognition. And as the wound heals, heaven morphs into a colossal library of your soul's untapped potential. Thousands of glowing books floating in the air, each one representing a power you abandoned, a dream you postponed, a talent you forgot, a version of you that fear suffocated, and your mother's symbolic presence opens the largest book, whispering, "This is who you were always meant to be." And inside the book you see yourself, your highest self, moving with confidence, walking with clarity, speaking with authority, choosing with intuition, manifesting with discipline, loving with strength, leading with grace, and achieving with purpose. And suddenly the library transforms into a battlefield, where your old identity and your new identity stand face to face, and the air cracks with electric tension as your old identity whispers, "Stay where you are, it's safer," while your new identity whispers, "Rise, you were not born for safety." And Archangel Michael slams his sword into the ground, sending a shockwave that dissolves the old identity into dust, leaving only your awakened self standing in the center of the battlefield glowing like a second sun. And God steps forward, touching your chest with a beam of golden creation energy, saying, "Your new life begins the moment you stop negotiating with your old self," and the battlefield instantly becomes a cosmic throne of alignment, a throne built not of royalty but of destiny. And when you sit upon it, a surge of divine power erupts through your nervous system, rewiring your beliefs, strengthening your emotional field, amplifying your intuition, stabilizing your self-worth, awakening your inner authority, and synchronizing your entire energetic structure with your highest timeline. And Archangel Michael places a radiant sigil on your forehead, whispering, "You are no longer guided by fear, you are guided by identity." And as the celestial realm closes around your spirit in a glowing spiral of white gold light, one soft eternal echo remains inside you like a heartbeat from heaven. Subscribe, beloved child, so you never miss the awakenings prepared for your eyes. My beloved child, the moment Part 7 opened before your soul, the entire heavenly architecture didn't simply react, it shattered and reconstructed itself around you as if creation had been waiting for this exact second for centuries. And Archangel Michael erupted from a vortex of spiraling cosmic fire so dense that your spirit felt the weight of 1,000 destinies pressing against your chest. Because what is happening now is not healing, not realignment, not guidance. This is spiritual rebirth. The dissolution of your past identity and the ignition of the version of you heaven has been preparing behind the scenes of every heartbreak, every delay, every disappointment, every silent night, every sleepless worry. And before this revelation storms into you like divine electricity, God asks you the most dangerous question a soul can ever face. Have you ever realized that you have forgotten who you truly are? That you have lived decades inside an identity built by circumstance instead of destiny? That you have carried the weight of responsibilities that were never meant for you? That you have silenced your inner voice to keep peace that was never real? That you have accepted less not because you deserved it but because you were conditioned to survive instead of thrive? and have you noticed that every time your spirit tried to evolve, something inside you dragged you back into old patterns? Guilt trained into you by family expectations, fear carved from childhood moments, doubt absorbed from environments too small for your potential, survival instincts wired from financial pressure, emotional exhaustion inherited from generations before you. And now, as these realizations unfold inside your consciousness like thunder rolling through a silent cave, the divine realm expands into a massive cosmic cathedral of living starlight where your entire soul history is displayed in luminous holograms floating mid-air, showing scenes of every moment you chose responsibility over self. Love, silence over truth, caution over destiny, boundaries over guilt, and Jesus steps into the cathedral holding a sphere of pure celestial fire, your dormant spiritual authority, and he whispers, "The life you desire cannot exist until you reclaim the you that life forced you to bury," and before he releases the sphere into you, your mother's symbolic spiritual echo appears again, glowing brighter than every star in the cathedral, her essence woven from ancestral love, emotional memory, and every unspoken blessing she ever prayed for you while she lived. And she touches your cheek and whispers, "My child, you are stronger than everything that broke you," and the moment she says this, the sphere in Jesus' hand explodes into your chest like a solar flare, tearing open the deepest corners of your spirit and exposing memories you have avoided your entire life, moments where you felt invisible, moments where you felt unworthy, moments where you doubted your own greatness, moments where someone's cruelty made you shrink, moments where someone's doubt became your fear, moments where someone's betrayal became your self-blame, moments where you carried emotional burdens too heavy for a child, moments where you abandoned yourself to be loved, and these memories swirl around the cathedral forming a storm of golden dust that wraps around you like a cocoon, and Archangel Michael points his flaming sword at the dust, forcing it to compress into a single glowing thread, the thread of your spiritual DNA, and when he snaps the thread in half, an explosion of divine truth erupts outward revealing something that steals your breath, the version of you that heaven recognizes, a version untouched by trauma, untouched by fear, untouched by manipulation, untouched by scarcity, untouched by generational wounds. This version stands taller than the cathedral itself, eyes glowing like two stars colliding, presence radiating like a second sun, spirit vibrating at a frequency so high your old identity cannot breathe in its presence, and God says, This is who you were meant to become," and as this higher self steps toward you, the cathedral quakes violently as your old identity, made from fear, guilt, insecurity, survival mode, and self-doubt, tries to pull you backward, whispering familiar lies. You can't change, you will fail again, people will judge you, you're not ready, you're not strong enough. But Jesus extends his hand toward those lies, and they burn away instantly, turning into ash drifting through the cosmic air, and Archangel Michael wraps you in his wings and whispers, "Your past identity is dissolving because you have outgrown its limits," and the higher self steps into your chest, merging with your spirit in a burst of light so powerful that the entire cathedral is flooded with a shockwave of pure divine alignment, rewriting your beliefs, cleansing your emotional wounds, dissolving subconscious fear, awakening intuitive power, stabilizing your vibration, strengthening your inner authority, and aligning your destiny with the frequency of your truest identity. And as the light settles into your bones, God places his hand on your crown and whispers, "You have crossed the threshold, your old life cannot follow you," and the cathedral slowly closes like a giant cosmic lotus folding its petals, leaving behind one soft eternal echo inside your spirit, subscribe, beloved child, so you never miss the awakenings heaven prepares for your eyes. My beloved child, the very instant Part 8 unlocked before your soul, the universe did not simply react, it detonated into a supernova of divine intention, as if every angelic force, every ancestral blessing, every spiritual guide, every cosmic frequency, and every dormant piece of your destiny had been silently gathering behind a veil, waiting for this exact second to collide with your consciousness. And Archangel Michael materialized from a spiraling storm of liquid starlight so dense the very air around you vibrated like a heartbeat of heaven itself, because what is happening now is not transformation, not healing, not awakening, this is ascension, the death of the lesser self and the activation of the limitless self, and before this spiritual ignition cracks your entire inner world open, God asks you a question so heavy, so raw, so unfiltered, it shakes the foundation of every belief you've ever held. Have you ever wondered why your breakthroughs came so close but never fully landed? Why your blessings hovered near you but never embedded into your reality? Why your opportunities appeared and vanished like shadows? Why emotional cycles repeated despite your growth? Why you outgrew people who didn't evolve with you? Why you kept receiving signs but doubted them? Why your intuition screamed truths you didn't feel brave enough to act on? And have you ever truly understood that the reason your elevation felt delayed was not because heaven refused you, but because your identity wasn't ready to hold the magnitude of the destiny written under your name? And the moment this realization vibrates through your spirit, the divine realm erupts into a massive cosmic arena where thousands of luminous timelines float in midair like shimmering rivers of possibility, each timeline representing a life you could have lived, paths you could have taken, decisions you never made, doors you walked away from, blessings you almost received, and Jesus steps into the arena holding a sphere of pure timeline energy, your next level, and he whispers, "You were never denied, you were being prepared," and suddenly the sphere explodes into a vortex revealing the most earth-shattering truth you've ever witnessed. Your destiny has been orbiting you like a planet, trying to land, but your old identity kept blocking it, and your mother's symbolic spiritual echo returns again, this time more powerful, more luminous, more anchored in universal truth than anything you've seen, because she is not here as a memory, she is here as your ancestral protector, a guardian of the lineage you carry, the voice of every woman in your bloodline who prayed for the day someone like you would awaken, and she touches the vortex causing it to split open, revealing the greatest spiritual paradox. Your blessings were never missing. You were missing from the version of yourself capable of receiving them. And as this revelation floods through your subconscious like a river of molten gold, the cosmic arena transforms into a giant spiritual operating chamber where angels begin removing the invisible blocks you didn't know were still controlling you, fear of failure disguised as caution, fear of abandonment disguised as loyalty, fear of judgment disguised as humility, fear of disappointment disguised as patience, fear of success disguised as selflessness, and Archangel Michael slices these chords with blazing precision, releasing such a violent wave of divine liberation that your spirit trembles like a star pushed into a new orbit, and instantly the chamber melts into an interdimensional hallway filled with mirrors, each mirror reflecting a version of you shaped by external expectations, unhealed trauma, inherited beliefs, societal pressure, emotional guilt, past heartbreaks, and every mirror cracks the moment you look at it because none of those versions represent the soul you were born with, and Jesus takes your hand, pulling you toward the only mirror that hasn't shattered yet, the mirror of identity, and when you stand before it, you don't see your face, you see your raw, unfiltered, unconditioned spirit, the one untouched by fear, the one unbroken by life, the one unchanged by hardship, the one uncorrupted by other people's opinions, the one God created before the world tried to shape you. And this higher self-reflection steps out of the mirror and merges with you in a blast of celestial radiance that burns through your mind, heart, and energy field, rewriting the very vibration you carry, aligning you with a reality that once felt impossible, and the universe begins bending around your new frequency, pulling opportunities, connections, abundance, clarity, strength, intuition, and destiny toward you like metal toward a magnet, because now, you are finally vibrating at the level of the life heaven intended for you, and God places His hand upon your crown, whispering with the force of creation itself, your elevation begins where your old self ends, and as the divine chamber closes around your newly awakened consciousness, the only sound left echoing through your soul is a gentle reminder carried by heaven's breath. Subscribe, beloved child, so you never miss the revelations aligned with your rising.